In Indiana's 64th district, the story of the future still being written in familiar places. In family farms passed down for generations, in main streets fighting to stay alive, and in communities where neighbors still show up for one another when times get hard. But across Vincennes, Patoka, and Haubstadt, and all the rural roads that connect them, families are facing the same pressures felt across small town America: rising costs, shrinking opportunities, and the fear that decisions made far away are shaping life here at home. Tonight's guest believes those communities deserve a stronger voice in Indianapolis, one focused on working families, public health, education, and the dignity of rural life. Because in districts like this one, politics isn't about ideology. It is about whether the next generation can afford to stay. Good evening and welcome back to Hold 'em Accountable, where we cut through the noise, follow the facts, and keep the focus where it belongs: the people of Indiana. Tonight's guest is Candy Greer, a Democratic candidate for Indiana House District 64, representing communities including Vincennes, Patoka, and Haubstadt, and surrounding rural areas of southwest Indiana. District 64 reflects the heart of rural Hoosier life, with strong agricultural roots, small business communities, and families deeply connected to their schools, churches, and local traditions. Greer is running on issues many residents feel every day: affordable health care, strong public education, economic opportunity, and support for working families across rural Indiana. Tonight, we go beyond campaign messaging to ask what she would actually do in the State House and how she would advocate for small town communities, what real change could look like for District 64. Candy, welcome to Hold Them Accountable.
Thank you for having me.
It is always a pleasure to talk to those who are throwing their hat in the ring. So let's start here. Rural communities across District 64 face population decline and economic pressure. What is your concrete plan to bring sustainable job growth to the region?
Well, I believe that our wages have been stagnant since 2009. We are still at the $7 and change. So, and that's statewide. That's not just here. So we have big companies that will come in and ask us to be grateful for 12, And meanwhile, we have other companies that come in our area and they inflate our local economics, our grocery prices, our gas prices, and et cetera. And then they turn around and have tax abatements. Personally, I'm not really seeing, 2009, I was 18. That was when I was first starting out. And I thought, future was kind of dismal, you know, but with the, housing crisis and all that. But, we were very optimistic, and then just nothing ever happened. We just kept working harder and nothing ever came into fruition for us. And my generation, I'm 35. So my generation, we've never really had a strap on the boot to pull in the first place. Um, so I think that minimum wage would definitely be my very first day one priority, is bringing that to the table. And we've held it off for so long. 15 is the new 7 to me. And everybody that I talk to, we have Walmart, we have, but when you raise the water, all ships come. It gives negotiating. I don't believe any of that scaremongering of, if you raise the minimum wage, the price. Yeah, okay, well, the prices are still going up. So it's time that we take our power back. Our labor is, currency. So we should be able to negotiate. And I think the government, as a representative of the people, should control our negotiating, or help us control our negotiating powers by raising that minimum wage. So I think that would be my very first right now.
Culture remains central to the district's identity and economy. How should state policy better support family farms and local producers?
So I'll be honest, this is one of those subjects that I am not very strongly versed on. Like I said, I'm in my wisdom learning stage. I am taking advice from everyone. I don't care about your party politics. I don't really mind. I want to hear from everybody. The people who know, and I'm reaching out to everybody. It doesn't matter. But I have done some research of my own. So I do know that 61% of farmers hold outside jobs other than just farming. They don't do just farming. So that ties into that intersectionality that we were talking about, where minimum wage will help them, whatever their plan may be. Maybe they, be able to work for a couple of years and pour back into their losses, and maybe they would be able to farm more. We have been looking at seed suppliers. I know that was a big thing a few years ago. I remember, back in my 20s when they were talking about Monsanto and GMOs and stuff like that. And from what I've seen, it's not as politicized as it was before. So that would be something that I would personally want to look into with people who know the business more. To see if I've seen where, the next generation of seed isn't quite as high yielding, stuff like that. So I feel like, basic economics, if you can have more supply, then everything else will come down, and hopefully that they can rise, get out of that bad state that they're in right now, especially with the soybean industry. And that's one of our main crops. So I know a lot of national policy has to do with that right now. So that's something that we will definitely, I will work with, everybody across the aisle, in my party, and especially those specified for those subjects. I definitely want to open door policy on all of that, and we will bring it to the floor because it affects most of our um, farms here are family owned. So definitely big issue that I will bring up if elected, for sure.
Many residents must travel long distances for healthcare and mental health services. What would you do in the legislature to expand rural access?
So definitely, as I was talking about, having bigger corporations in our area pitch in a little bit more, I think, definitely, uh, there's some national policies once again that are affecting this. So, that's really not, I will definitely vote in favor of whatever is aligning to help with that nationally. But locally, I would like to see some sort of transportation help with elderly. I know they have it, elderly and low income, of course, are most vulnerable. But I also want to see some help for the middle class too, So I want it to be um, something to where, it's not just if you have Medicaid or Medicare. If you have anything, or, anybody necessarily public, but pretty, as public as it can possibly be, um, to have help transportation. And then, of course, we need to fund our hospitals and we need to build more. That's just what it is. So I will do everything I can to maybe help some sort of transportation or, sorry.
Public schools in smaller districts often struggle with funding and staffing. What specific changes would you push to strengthen rural education?
I want to look into the voucher program that is going on. Um, I've recently learned that we have lost $4 million just in one district alone in the last 9 years. So I will be hoping to work with teachers unions to try to figure out what we can do with staffing. Of course, I want to expand education all around. Um, so, help put kids through school, uh, young adults, even if you think it's too late, it's not. I want everybody to be able to have access to education. So I think a lot of that will tie into the staffing issue, as well as the funding. So, like I said, big corporations, another intersectionality. Um, Once they are held accountable and made to pinch in their fair share, we can definitely start allocating more funding to public education for sure.
Housing availability and affordability are growing concerns even in small towns.
Yes.
What solutions would you support to ensure families can live where they work?
Well, I think we should definitely end the buying up of residential property from big corporations. That should definitely go ahead and kick that that out. and that will definitely help. I think that we should work with different trades and try to figure out the best negotiating prices we can get on materials and labor and try to build more good quality single family homes. I mean, the apartments for $1,200 a month that just keep getting built, and I'm hearing that they're not the greatest. Um, so because I know pricing, I mean, like that's another national issue that is going to be affected, of course, but I think we should work together in our local communities and get with all the different unions and all the different tradesmen and all the different companies and bring the fiscal conservatives to the table and show me where you can find the best quality prices and cut the waste out and cut the and just get straight to it. There's no reason why, we should be in a housing shortage ever in the richest country on earth.
Infrastructure such as roads, broadband, and water systems is critical to rural growth. Which investments should be prioritized first?
Well, so I just came across the bill in my 4 a.m. research if I can't sleep. They are going to reclassify the chemicals that they're putting into the water so that we can have, there's going to be more carcinogen. It's a big word for Elmo. And I think, and of course, our outdated water systems, I think water is a human right. So if it was up to me, everybody would have it. You wouldn't have to pay for it. And we would find some other way that isn't at our expense to fund that type of stuff. We need our upgrades and we need, and then I think as important as broadband is, I definitely understand the need for it. I myself personally would just love to be able to pay all my local bills on my phone and not have to be charged a crazy fee because my municipality can't afford to process my payment. Um, and then of course, local businesses and stuff, they deserve to be able to be on the same playing field as somebody else that has that. Um, but I do believe that our infrastructure is the actual roads themselves has they've been significantly let down. Um, I mean, it's terrible. And then they had the nerve to try to give us the tire tax. So I'm trying to make it make sense. You got our governor out here saying that we have a surplus, so we should probably use it for us. This is our money. So people forget that this is literally our money. We're not asking for a handout. We're telling you that we hired you and do your job or get fired and quit cheating to try to not get fired.
Small businesses form the backbone of communities like Vincennes and Haubstadt. How would you support them without adding unnecessary barriers?
So I think the Medicare for all would definitely help in the intersectionality of that for sure. Without because I know it was a big thing. If you had a certain amount of employees, you are required, and and that was hurting to give them insurance. I'm sorry, and that was hurting um, the small business, and and so I think that would alleviate so much to where I'm not scaring them with a minimum wage raise because the average person's going, well, how can I afford $22 an hour to keep up with production or whatever the case may be, whatever. That's a dreamer's dream. But I think that, yeah, a lot of these policies um, that are on the bigger scale is definitely going to help alleviate some of those things to where they are able to keep up with the other requirement. I mean, everybody deserves a living wage. So the more that I can help, everybody, small businesses, and then, like I said, corporations paying their fair share would definitely um, alleviate. It's all intersectional.
Mental health and addiction challenges continue to impact rural families. What new policies or funding would you champion?
So I think we need to definitely get more addiction centers around, especially in rural areas. Right now, like, I just heard of a church that is doing one there where you can go there and you can get treatment and that's really good outreach. So I'm glad that we do have some personal um, ones going on here, but I think the government should definitely expand on that. I mean, if you take care of mental health, which obviously I know that sounds like take care of mental health, yeah, woohoo. But no, like if you focus on mental health and you invest in that mental health and that leads to drug addiction, it all kind of helps itself. And then, homelessness is a big thing and holding jobs and so if you're able to give somebody their basic needs, even, temporarily to try to get them better, we need to treat addiction like the flu. You need to let somebody rest and get better and break that cycle of addiction. So hopefully they will I said it's all social programs that we need to invest in our people again.
As a Democrat, likely in a Republican controlled House,
Mhm.
how would you build coalitions strong enough to pass meaningful legislation?
By working with the people in my district, I really want to get in with, I mean, everyone. I have no I have so much respect for people that are older than me or, lived a different time than me. And I respect their opinions and I want their opinions and I want their wisdom and I want their knowledge. And I want them to know that I will fight for them. And I'm really, I'm from here. This is not, I went to school here, with you, and I've lived in all three counties that I want to represent. I went to school in all three counties that I want to represent. I have friends and family in all three counties that I want to represent. So this is really personal for me. Uh, and I want an open door policy with me. I want to be able to maybe once a week, we'll just have a live chat with Candy and everybody can tell me what their issues are. And I will get people on it, and I want to form, and I want to pay homage to the people that are doing it before me. There are plenty of organizations that are, forming coalitions and in all the subjects that we've talked about. And I'm hoping that they will open the doors for me and let me work with them and let me bring them to our house.
And that kind of folds us into the last question. Why you and why now?
Well, the now is pretty easy. There was nobody else. um, I, like I said, I wasn't starting my political career yet. My plans, I was going to run for school board. We had had a book banning situation happening at my daughter's school, and it actually was my daughter's class, so it directly affected me. But even if it didn't, I was still ready to go. And I expected a fight when I went to go speak, and I thought I was alone in my feelings toward this. And then I found out that my voice wasn't alone, and I was actually an echo of all the people that were behind me. And it brought me to tears, and it really restored my faith, because, like you said, I am a Democrat in a very heavily red. Um, so I wasn't expecting um, that whenever I went to go speak. I thought that, like I said, I was ready for a fight. So everybody ended up saying everything that I was thinking anyway. So it was pretty easy by the time I got to the podium. Um,
Can you tell us what book it was?
Ready Player One.
They wanted to ban that.
They wanted to ban it. Yes.
Alrighty
Yeah.
then.
So yeah, obviously I started my speech with, I'm here because Miss Shipley had me read 1984. So yeah, we're not doing that. Not as long as I'm part of this community. Absolutely not. So yeah, that's how it started. It kind of woke me up. And then like I said, my mother, uh, she is running as well for an office in Minnesota, actually. So she's I've watched her. She was in a special election. She did not make it, but she used that momentum to run for the midterm. So I'm super proud of her, super inspired by her. And I was helping her with her campaign. I was helping her do TikTok and keeping her on her toes with what the popular subjects are, what's taboo now, trying to keep up as much as I could, and especially, my age. She really was trying to get, or she is trying to get in with the youth. So I feel like I'm the bridge. It's my 10-year plan, or my 10-year theory. You're either 10 years older than me or 10 years younger than me, and we're going to relate and we're going to figure it out. So, but when I start, I'm the political one um, in my friend group. And so anytime that I am outraged about something or I'm talking about something, everybody's going, Candy, what are you talking about? And I'm over here screaming into the void. So that's why me. Because I am the voice already for, my own interpersonal life. I'm already the one that's ringing the bells and screaming, wake up and please go vote. And and so I really want to inspire, people older than me and younger than me, and to really get involved in their political processes, because it does affect you regardless of who you are and what your identity is. It doesn't matter, because these policies control, how you eat, what you drink, how much your wages are worth. What is your value? And I want us to take a look at these stuff as a community and say, why are we being sold out as a community? And we don't deserve this. There's plenty of we are hardworking, loving, kind, generous, awesome people. We come together when it's important. And, let a kid be hurt somewhere. Everybody's coming. It doesn't matter at that moment what your political stance is. And I found that out, and I'm so proud of my community, and I really hope that they let me, give them a choice. The current seat has not been challenged in the last 2 elections, so here I am.
Hi, I'm Jackson Franklin. I'm a proud Democrat running to replace Victoria Spartz here in Indiana's 5th Congressional District. I grew up in Albany, but today I call Muncie my home. I'm a registered paramedic and a combat medic in the Indiana Army National Guard, but this campaign isn't about me, it's about who this government is supposed to serve. Healthcare is a human right, and Hoosiers deserve quality, affordable care. That's why I'm fighting for Medicare for all. Once elected, I will continue to fight for women's rights, trans rights, immigrant rights, and human rights across the board. I will never accept any lobby money from corporate PACs or APAC. While I serve in Congress, I'll only answer to one group, the people of this district. If you're tired of politics as usual, if you're ready for bold, people-powered leadership, then join our grassroots campaign. Together, we will not only win these coming elections, we will truly create a system that places people over profits. I'm Jackson Franklin, and I approve this message.
Candy, we've talked about the future of District 64, jobs, schools, healthcare, and the realities facing rural families. But now it's time for the part of the show where the answers get shorter, the choices get clearer. No speeches, no talking points, just instinct. This is hold 'em or fold 'em. I'll give you a statement. If you agree, you hold 'em. If you don't, you fold 'em. One quick sentence if you need it. Are you ready?
Okay, so hold them for yes and fold them for no. All right.
Correct.
All right.
Healthcare should be treated as a human right with movement toward universal public coverage.
Absolutely hold them.
Indiana should raise minimum wage and index it to inflation so rural workers don't fall behind.
Hold them.
State law should better protect workers' ability to unionize without retaliation.
Absolutely hold them.
Candidates should refuse corporate PAC or questionable special interest money, even if it costs them politically.
Absolutely.
Indiana should invest more aggressively in renewable and environmental protection while creating rural jobs.
Yes. I think we should definitely be careful with where we're putting them. So I definitely want to respect that aspect of it, but overall, yes.
Public schools should be fully funded before expanding private voucher programs.
Absolutely.
Stronger gun safety laws, including universal background checks, are necessary to protect communities.
Absolutely.
Housing affordability requires stronger tenant protections and expanded workforce or public housing options.
Absolutely.
Mental health and addiction services deserve major new state investment even if budgets must shift.
Absolutely.
Elected officials must be willing to challenge their own party when constituents' needs come first.
Absolutely.
Candy, thank you for being here tonight, for bringing your perspective into this conversation, for answering tough questions with honesty, and choosing to step forward on behalf of communities that too often feel overlooked in statewide politics. In places like Vincennes, Patoka, and Haubstadt, public service isn't abstract, it's personal. It's about whether a hospital stays open, whether a school keeps its teachers, whether a young family can afford to put down roots in the same town that they were raised.
Absolutely.
Those are quiet stakes, but they are real ones, and they deserve leaders willing to listen closely and fight steadily, even when the spotlight isn't there. Running for office in a rural district means showing up in living rooms, church basements, and small town diners and being willing to hear hard truths face to face. So that kind of accountability still matters in Indiana, maybe now more than ever. So, Candy, whatever the outcome of this race, thank you for choosing to stand up, speak out, and put your name beside the future of District 64. We appreciate you being here tonight.
No worries.
And to everyone watching and listening here in Indiana, across the country, and those following this conversation from France, Germany, and Finland, how did you find me, first of all? Second, the strength of small town Indiana has never come from power or headlights. It comes from neighbors who care enough to participate, from communities that refuse to give up on themselves, and voters who believe their voice still matters, because democracy doesn't begin in Indianapolis. It begins right where you live. So stay informed, ask questions, and as always, hold them accountable.